Marcel Duchamp was one of the most important artists of the 20th century. He was born in France in 1887. Duchamp's work changed the way people thought about art. He is often called one of the leaders of modern art. Duchamp was not just a painter. He worked in many different ways, including sculpture, writing, and even chess. He wanted to challenge traditional ideas about art. He wanted people to think about art in a new way. One of his most famous works is called Fountain. This work is a simple object, a urinal. But it is not just any urinal. It was made into art because Duchamp chose it. By choosing the urinal and putting it in an art gallery, Duchamp showed that anything could be art. This idea was very new at the time. It made people think about what art really is. Before Duchamp, people thought that art had to be beautiful or skillfully made. But Duchamp argued that art is about ideas, not just looks. His choice to show a common object in a gallery made people question what art could be. Another famous work by Duchamp is The Large Glass. This work is a large, complicated piece made of glass, metal, and other materials. It is a mixture of painting and sculpture. Duchamp worked on The Large Glass for 8 years. It is a strange and mysterious work, full of symbols and hidden meanings. Some people find it hard to understand, but it shows how Duchamp used art to express his ideas. Duchamp also liked to play with language and wordplay. He often used puns and jokes in his art. For example, he made a series of works called ready-mades. A ready-made is an everyday object that Duchamp turned into art simply by choosing it. He once said, "I am not interested in the beautiful or the artistic. I am interested in the idea." He wanted to show that art could be anything, as long as it made people think. Duchamp's work was very different from the art that people were used to. In the early 20th century, artists were still following older traditions of art. They painted realistic pictures of people, places, and things. But Duchamp was not interested in painting like that. Instead, he looked for ways to challenge the way art was made and understood. He wanted people to think outside the box. Duchamp's ideas influenced many other artists. After him, many artists began to think about art in new ways. Duchamp's influence can be seen in many art movements, like Dada and Surrealism. Dada was a movement that rejected traditional ideas of art and embraced chaos and nonsense. Surrealism, on the other hand, used dreams and the unconscious mind to create strange and imaginative works. Both movements were inspired by Duchamp's ideas. Duchamp was not only an artist but also a thinker. He believed that art should not just be about beauty, but should also make people think. He wanted to show that art could be anything, even something as ordinary as a urinal. Many people did not understand his work at first. But over time, people began to see the importance of his ideas. Today, Duchamp is considered one of the most important figures in modern art. His work continues to inspire artists and thinkers all over the world. In his lifetime, Duchamp created many different kinds of art. He painted, sculpted, made collages, and even created objects that were meant to be art. But what made Duchamp different from many other artists was his focus on ideas. For Duchamp, the idea behind the artwork was just as important, if not more important, than the artwork itself. In the early 20th century, art was changing rapidly. artists were looking for new ways to express themselves. They wanted to break free from traditional rules and explore new possibilities. Duchamp's work helped to open up new paths for art. Before Duchamp, many artists felt that they needed to create beautiful, realistic paintings or sculptures. But Duchamp showed that art could be much more than that. He showed that art could be about ideas, concepts, and even questions. Duchamp's works were not always easy to understand. But that was part of what made them interesting. He wanted people to think and to question the world around them. In this way, Duchamp's art was a kind of puzzle or game. He liked to challenge people and make them think in new ways. Duchamp's work also reflected his playful nature. He had a sense of humor and enjoyed making jokes through his art. For example, in one of his works, he used a photograph of a Mona Lisa with a mustache drawn on it. This was a playful way of turning a famous image into something funny and unexpected. Duchamp's art was often a combination of seriousness and playfulness. He wanted to make people think deeply, but he also wanted to make them smile or laugh. One of the most interesting things about Duchamp's work is how he used ordinary objects in extraordinary ways. He took things that people usually did not think of as art, like a bicycle wheel or a bottle rack, and turned them into pieces of art. By doing this, he asked important questions about the nature of art itself. What makes something art? Is it the object itself, or the idea behind it? These are the questions that Duchamp's work raises. In the years after Duchamp's death in 1968, his influence grew even stronger. Many artists began to see him as a revolutionary figure who had changed the course of art. His ideas about art have influenced everything from conceptual art to pop art. Today, Duchamp is considered one of the greatest artists of the 20th century. His work continues to inspire new generations of artists. Even though Duchamp is no longer alive, his ideas and his art live on. He showed the world that art is not just about skill or beauty. It is about ideas, creativity, and the way we see the world. Marcel Duchamp's art was a revolution. It changed the way people think about art, and it made them see the world in new ways. His legacy is still felt today, and his work continues to influence artists around the world. In many ways, Duchamp's art is a reminder that art is not about following rules. It is about breaking boundaries, exploring new ideas, and thinking for yourself. Duchamp's work teaches us that art is not just something you look at. It is something you experience, something that makes you think, and something that challenges your ideas about the world. Duchamp will always be remembered as one of the great innovators in the history of art. Through his work, he showed that the world of art is wide open, full of possibilities, and ready for anyone who is willing to think differently.